Now we're rolling. Damage Plan MMA podcast. I'm Jason, back again with Mr. Blake Arulian. Blake, what's up, man?
How's it going? I am super stoked. So this one's a little bit different, play-by-play reporter who asks questions. And then the fun ones are when you just get to be a fan, as I've said in the past. So these are so fun. I appreciate the time.
I know Zach's a little bummed out. He called me earlier and he's like, "What time are we recording today?" And I'm like, "Dude, you're supposed to be taking the week off, not coming on and recording with us. Me and Blake got it." And he's like, "No, dude, this card is so awesome this weekend. I want to jump on it, man, because it is an awesome card."
It's a great fight night. One of the best we've had in a while, actually.
Yeah. Before we get into that, Blake, I wanted to touch on and give a huge shout out to Clay Collard, who will be fighting tonight for the PFL. Fight time starts at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. He will be fighting Alex Martinez. And when Clay fights, he brings it.
I cannot wait. That's going to be fun coming off of that win against Jeremy Stephens. He's beaten some big names too. I mean, he beat Anthony Pettis in Anthony Pettis's debut, and everyone was like, "What the heck?" Like,
yep.
When you have the guy who's from the Wheaties box years ago, I hate to always bring that up with Pettis, but when you beat that guy and then you beat Jeremy Stephens, pretty darn legit. So it's going to be very exciting to see Clay Collard out there.
That Jeremy Stephens fight was a banger. Those guys were throwing hard shots.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I mean, Jeremy's fighting too on that card. He had to shave his head to make weight or something like that. I was seeing that.
Did he really? I didn't see that. Oh,
I don't know if it's real. I don't know if that's the reason, because people always say that shaving your head doesn't change much, but he did have to shave his head he was, head shaved yesterday at weigh-ins for that. So
yeah, he came in at, looks like weigh-ins, he weighed in at 156. He's fighting Miles Price. Cool. Well, shout out to Clay. We know we always cheer for our local guys, so good luck to Clay Collard tonight in the PFL. So
yes, sir.
Let's break down this Calvin Kattar, Josh Emmett card, man. I'm freaking pumped for this card.
We are full. Seriously, even the prelims are super, super good. I mean, I'm just saying right off the top, Phil Hawes, Duron Griffin, Eddie Wineland, former world champion of the WEC, Cody Stamann. It doesn't get Court McGee, our guy.
Oh, Court, another local.
Fighting. That's going to be huge. And then the main card, we've got Kevin Holland. We've got Joaquin Buckley, probably the greatest MMA knockout of all time. Cowboy Joe Lozon. Dude, it is stacked. I cannot wait to get into this.
All right, let's just start from the bottom with we'll start in the prelims with Roman Dolidze against Kyle Daukaus. Roman Dolidze is 9-1, 6'2". He has a 76-inch reach. Kyle Daukaus 11-2. He stands 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. So pretty similar height, reach, pretty close in experience. What do you got on this fight for us, Blake?
So I do have Kyle Daukaus at the -220 money line here. Kyle is it's going to be closer than the money lines are saying, though. -220 is kind of a range of it might be kind of a blowout fight, might be a unanimous decision win, but Roman is legit. I really think that this is going to be a grappling match that goes it's a little bit closer than most people would think.
I'm glad you said that, because when I first saw this, my first initial reaction was, "Oh, Kyle Daukaus is gonna just roll right through him." And then I'm like, "Oh, let me pump the brakes on that a little bit." I mean, Roman is gonna be, I think, is gonna hang. I think it's gonna be a lot closer, like you said, than the -260 that I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I got these money lines yesterday, so they might have changed a little bit overnight. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Kyle Daukaus, but it will be closer.
How do you see that going by decision?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Kyle Daukaus by unanimous decision, but I'm gonna say that it's gonna be closer than people think, especially considering the money line and all. But I will say Kyle Daukaus unanimous decision.
All right, we'll get on to our next bout in the middleweight division. We got Phil Megatron Hawes against Duron Griffin. Hawes is 11-3, stands 6 foot tall with a 77.5-inch reach. Duron, little DC, I like to call him, Win, is 7-2. He stands 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. How do you see this fight playing out?
All right, so this is one of my, I think, 4 or 5 upsets of the night. Duron Griffin, a +195 on the money line. Phil Hawes, a -240. Now, Phil Hawes is legit. Phil Hawes is a good fighter. But Duron Griffin, back in March of 2020, I was looking at the fighting lines between Duron Griffin and Antonio Arroyo, and he was a huge underdog, more than this one. I believe he was over 250 on that fight, and Duron mauled the guy. So considering that he's from AKA, considering he's super close with Daniel Cormier, lately he's been training with head coach Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is the undefeated, undisputed. Maybe I'm not. This is pretty blasphemous. This is a little ridiculous, but just as good a coach as he is a fighter. And so I think Duron Win shouldn't be looked at as this plus 195 versus a minus 240 fight. I really think this is going to be closer. I counted out Duron Win once before, and I promised myself I never would after that. Forget about the size differential. Duron Win is going to close the distance and take him down.
Okay, then. Look at you coming out with guns a-blazing on this one.
I get a lot cooler as the time goes on. I've got like one or two more upsets.
I don't hate it. I'm not a huge Phil Hawes fan. Like, he hasn't looked that impressive to me, but I just think the size will be the difference. Phil Hawes does have a wrestling background. If anything, I probably think it's going to be kind of a boring fight.
Really? Yeah.
I think it goes to a decision. Fight goes to a decision. Let me look and see what that is. It's plus 120. If I'm a betting man, I'm throwing $10 on plus 120 if fight goes to decision. I don't see anybody getting knocked out. Because like you said, Duron is tough and he will grind it out with him.
He is so underrated. I mean, considering his last fight, which was given a year and a half ago, I mean, he's a really, really good fighter, especially for his size at that weight class. Really, really good. And Khabib's been kicking his butt. If you look at his Instagram,
I watched those Instagram videos.
It's been hilarious. So anyways, I'll go with that guy.
Look at that. You got somebody supporting you. Mason thinks Duron's going to win as well.
Thanks, brother.
See, we're already disagreeing, Blake. You're taking Zack's place perfectly today.
I really need to find a way to live up to the expectations.
Next up in the bantamweight division, we got Cody the Spartan Stamann against Eddie Wineland. Stamann is 19-5-1, stands 5'6" with a 64.5-inch reach. Eddie Wineland 24-15-1. He stands 5'7" with a 69-inch reach. How do you see this fight playing out?
You know, a 3-fight losing streak for Cody Stamann, but he still is the biggest favorite on the card at minus 400. You got to wonder why. And the reason why is because Eddie's got a lot of miles on him. People, when you hear that Eddie Wineland is fighting, they go, Eddie Wineland's still fighting? I didn't even know Eddie Wineland was still fighting.
Yep.
I really think that Cody, his losses have been to some of the best of the best. I mean, just his last two, Said Nurmagomedov and Merab Dvalishvili, who is going to be fighting Jose Aldo in Salt Lake in a couple of months. It's very clear that Cody Stamann has had a very difficult last couple of fights. And so I think this is a very well received minus 400 betting line for Cody Stamann. And I think he gets the win.
He's at minus 520 on I'm on best fight odds. Yeah. He's on minus 520 at some places, minus 590 at FanDuel.
Lines definitely probably change after weigh-ins.
I'm going with Stamann. He's a Michigan guy. I'm from Michigan. I also know who he trains with down at Extreme Couture. Shout out to Aleko and Chad Decker, who I know who's going to be in his corner. I'm going with Cody Stamann on this one as well.
I definitely agree. That's going to be a fun one. I'm excited for it.
All right, next up in the strawweight division, we got Gloria De Paula against Maria Oliveira. De Paula is 6'4". She stands 5'5" with a 67.5-inch reach. Oliveira is 12-5. She stands 5'5" with a 69-inch reach. Glorina against Spider Girl.
This is an exciting one, and it seems like I have so many upsets. They're kind of earlier on in the card. I like Maria on this. From what I'm seeing, really? I see a plus 215 underdog coming into this versus Gloria's minus 265. Maria Oliveira has 7 TKO and KO victories. And I like the fact that she has some sort of specializing ways that she knows she likes to finish the fight. I think that they've both had their ups and downs in the UFC, but I do like Maria Oliveira in this one. This one's kind of a toss-up for me. I think it's going to be a pretty close fight.
I'm going to disagree with you on this one as well. I'm going to go with Gloria. And the only reason I say that is because I'm big on experience, right? The fighter that's fought more the higher level competition. And I feel like Gloria, even though she's lost 2 out of 3, if I'm not mistaken, in the UFC, I think she's fought a little bit tougher competition. I'm going to go Gloria on this one, and I think this one goes to a decision as well.
I see that. I definitely see that.
So we disagree again.
We can disagree, but I will never
disagree.
I have as someone who does sports broadcasting and have done podcasts where you're supposed to disagree and yell at each other and say you're crazy. I hate yelling at people. I hate getting mad. So I never really get into it.
I won't yell at you. I only yell at Zack. That's it. Zack and I get into some good. It's funny because my grandma, who shout out to my grandmother in Michigan, who's in her 80s and watches every one of our podcasts. And she tells me on Sunday, she's like, I just love it. You and Zack just have so much fun arguing with each other. And just like, yeah, I just want to choke him out.
One of these days,
it's going to take me a couple years. He's ahead of me.
We need to do a little damage plan grappling tournament.
We do. That'd be freaking awesome, man. Yeah, we should get everybody together.
That'd be super cool. All right. Ricardo Ramos versus Danny Chavez.
Go ahead, man. I'll let you read out the stats on this one if you got them in front of you, or I can do it.
I actually don't have them right in front of me. I have my notes in front of me, but I have Ricardo Ramos minus 280 and Danny Chavez at a plus 235. Do you have the numbers on height and weight and stuff like that?
Yeah. Danny Chavez coming in 11-4-1. He stands 5'8" with a 67-inch reach. Ramos is 15-4. He stands 5'9" with a 72-inch reach.
Yeah. You see that?
No, I did. I missed it. What did I miss?
Oh, just comment. I think you.
Yeah. There it is. I see it.
That's funny. I like Ricardo in this one. 9 years younger, 5 wins by decision, and Danny has lost 3 of his 4 fights by decision. I just think Ricardo's kind of a bad matchup for him. I'm just going to go with that. Ricardo Ramos gets the win, probably by decision.
I'm going to agree with you on this one. I got a question for you, though. What do you think about seeing some of these big lines in some of these earlier fights like this? I feel like a lot of times in these prelims, I mean, sometimes you look at a fight and you're like, okay, Khabib's fighting, he's going to smash that guy. But I feel like sometimes on these prelims, they're matched up pretty well, and we're seeing some pretty wide lines. So I'm not knocking you too hard on picking some of these underdogs because I can actually see that.
No, and I was kind of wondering that too as I was doing my research for this card. I was like, I get the Eddie Wineland plus 300. I get that. Yeah. And I don't want to hate on Eddie Wineland. I just, I already said my piece on that. But like Duron win coming off of a dominant win when he was a huge underdog and he's still a plus 195. I just don't really get that. I don't really know what the case is for those. And so I would have to say, it's all math. It's all, it's money coming in, money coming out. That's how the betting lines come in. So it really is just a matter of, the fans kind of decide this, the hardcores and the casuals, but I don't know how many casuals are really looking at these earlier cards or the earlier prelims. So I don't really know, to be completely honest with you, but at the end of the day, it's just math. So it's someone knows something, I guess I should say.
You mean everybody's not degenerates like us? Watching prelims, early prelims.
No, absolutely not. No way.
Next up in the welterweight division, we got Jeremiah Wells versus our boy Court McGee. Jeremiah Wells 10-2-1, stands 5'9" with a 75-inch reach. The Crusher 21-10, stands 5'11" with a 75.5-inch reach. I pretty much know both of our picks on this one, but let's hear what you got to say about this fight.
Oh, I'm going to go with Jeremiah. No, I'm kidding. I am going to go with no, absolutely not. I'm going with Mr. Court McGee. He is such a great guy. I love talking to him. I love, just learning from him. Court is interesting. He cancels out jiu-jitsu, and his last 2 opponents have been really, really good jiu-jitsu guys. Court cancels out jiu-jitsu like no one else that I've seen. It's really unbelievable. And then those 10 losses, 9 of them have come by decision. So I think if Court can just, play the position game, play the striking game, punches and bunches, and push the pressure, I really think that he comes away with the win here against Jeremiah Wells. This is a very close line. This is the closest one that we've seen so far. Court, from what I'm seeing, minus 120, Jeremiah Wells plus 100. And I've been seeing him flip-flopped a little bit as time has gone on. It is interesting, though. Court will be fighting with Shane Stoneman in his corner as usual. Yep. He won't have Dane there. Dane's been there for his last 2 fights. Dane will not be there in his corner for this fight. So it will be interesting to see if that has any change in game plan or anything like that. But I am going to go with Mr. Court McGee for that one, the Crusher himself.
I'm pretty sure he'll have Rob Hanley in his corner too. If I'm not
Mhm.
mistaken, I saw a picture with Rob in there as
Yes,
well
yes.
from Absolute. So yeah, we're not betting against Court McGee. Our boy's going to grind out another win. It's crazy if you look back at his career. I mean, season 11 Ultimate Fighter winner. That was 12 years ago.
I know.
Isn't that crazy to think about?
It's unbelievable, and you know what's super cool about that too is he's getting better later
Yes,
on. You know, he almost beat Sean Brady. Like just that alone, the guy almost beat Sean Brady a couple years ago.
and that's
Lost a couple of fights, but this back-to-back run that he's been on has been really, really special. I'm really excited to see what Court has to do. He's taken on a bigger role over at Agima, and on top of that, his performances have gotten better over the last couple of months and the last couple of fights he's had, I should say.
I'm looking forward to it. Should be a good one.
It'll be good. I'm excited. Let's go, Court.
All right. Next up in the flyweight division, we got Jasmine Jusa Davicius. Hopefully I said that right. Against Natalia Silva. Jasmine is 7-1. She stands 5'7" with a 68-inch reach. Silva 12-5-1. She stands 5'4", and I do not have a reach listed here. How do you see this fight playing out, Blake?
So I've got two reasons for picking Jasmine in this one.
Okay.
Number one, Natalia is a debuter. She's making her UFC debut. And
Okay.
number two is Natalia hasn't fought since December of 2019. So that's a really long time away. And then to be pushed right into the UFC, that's kind of a weird jump. Again, kind of a weird thing that I almost want to like do a little bit more of a deep dive into, you know, how this is all working out, why this is the case. But Jasmine at minus 230, I think that line is there for a reason. And I'm going to go with Jasmine on this one.
I'm going to 100% back you. I just reiterated it. I said it earlier. You know, these fighters that are coming in on and making their UFC debut, it's tough. A 25-year-old making her UFC debut coming off a 2.5-year layoff, that's a tall task.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say this will be a very good barometer. If she's able to pull this off, now we can start making some little stars on our notes and say, okay, this girl's legit.
She's legit. She's very legit. And, you know, but here's the thing is a lot of times when fighters do come in and they have, you know, I think of Alex Pereira, you know, when he came in, obviously he's a way bigger name, knocked out Izzy Adesanya. But when he comes in, he's still a minus 750 when he comes into, you know, into his first fight. So, you know, we'll see what happens. Natalia Silva at plus 195. All right, you ready for the next one?
The next one should be good because there's a lot of controversy around this Adrian Yanez and Tony Kelly fight.
Yes.
Yanez 15-3 stands 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. Tony Kelly 8-2 stands 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Let's dig into this one, man.
Adrian Yanez is so electrifying. He's so much fun to watch. I cannot wait for it. This is my fight of the night. And I am going to go with Adrian on this one, but I want to give it back over to you. You seem as excited for this one as any fight on the card.
Yeah, so this is the one where Tony Kelly made some comments during when he was cornering his girlfriend, and I can't think of her name right now, but it was just a month ago, and he made a comment about I think he called the girl she was fighting a dirty Brazilian or something. They're dirty Brazilians, which I'm not a big fan of the mics being in. I mean, I like it, but I don't like it. I mean, in the heat of the battle, I mean, I'm not agreeing with what he said. I don't think he should have said that, but it's like, okay, they're in the heat of the battle. The girl full on eye gouged her. Like it was on purpose. It's like, I'm not necessarily giving him a pass, but it's like, come on, man. It's like sticking a mic in an NFL locker room. It's like, come on. Some of the stuff that those guys say. Yeah. But apparently a bunch of the UFC fighters have been tweeting out that they're going to give Adrian Yanez a fight bonus if he knocks out Tony Kelly.
It'll be fun. You know, from the broadcasting point of view, I love miking up anyone who is in the heat of the battle. You know, unfortunately, you know, things happen, things are said, and, you know, I don't want to put my, you know, I don't have really anything to say about that, but it is interesting to have, you know, when you mic up people, you know, when you watch a basketball game and you mic them up. So, you know, there's a place for it, but hopefully, you know, people can be, you know, as respectful as possible. I'm just trying to stay as nice as I possibly can.
Oh, I don't blame. Yeah. There was I saw if you're on TikTok, there was a little tweet. Somebody had tweeted about, they did a TikTok about, hockey players being mic'd up, and listening to those guys are ruthless with each other. Like those guys are, but they can fight. So, and usually back it up. So,
yeah, well, it'll be fun, despite all the controversy and however people see it, I'm more so just excited to watch these two fight. It's going to be a good one, bad blood or no bad blood, we're here to watch fights. And I'm really excited to watch Adrian Yanez. I do think Yanez gets the nod in this one. Again, the word I have for him is he's so electrifying. He's just so exciting to watch.
Yeah, I'm a huge Yanez fan. I'm all over Adrian Yanez on this one. Let me see what the knockout prop is on that. He's a pretty heavy favorite too.
-285.
-285. Let's see what Yanez win by KO is only plus 130. Yanez inside the distance plus 115. A lot of as far as the money coming in on this fight, I think a lot of people are seeing Yanez gets the finish in this one.
Yeah, I think so. That's rightfully so. The things that he's done, it goes to show that he's, I think he does get it done. Let's move on to this main card, man. This is going to be
main card, baby. Middleweight division. We got Julian Marquez against Gregory Rodriguez. Marquez is 9-2. He stands 6'2" with a 72-inch reach. RoboCop Rodriguez is 11-4. He stands 6'3" with a 76-inch reach. How do you see this one playing out, Blake?
So my brain says Rodriguez, but my heart says Marquez. And I think I'm going to go with my heart. I'm going to go with Marquez by submission. He's had tougher competition in the UFC. He has more experience in the UFC, and he's done well. And he has submission wins in 3 of his last 4. I'm going to go with Marquez. This fight will go to the ground. And although Gregory hasn't shown that he's necessarily susceptible to the submission, I do like Julian Marquez as a specialist, as someone who if the fight's going to go somewhere that you're almost guaranteed, if you know that the fight's going to go somewhere specifically and one fighter is better in that area, I'm going to have to go with them. And so I'm going to take Julian Marquez as the underdog in this one versus Gregory Rodriguez.
The Cuban Missile Crisis. Wasn't Marquez the one that shaved asking like Miley Cyrus out? Wasn't he the one that did that?
Yes, he
shaved something in his chest. Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, and it was during one of those pandemic shows when like everyone was watching, no one had much to do, and it went totally viral. It was awesome.
I feel like we're on the same brain wavelength today because I actually kind of like Marquez in this one as well for everything you just said. So I'm just gonna echo everything you just said on this fight. I'm gonna pick Marquez on this one as well.
We started off pretty rough. We were disagreeing on everything, and then we decided, let's make peace.
The main card. I was waiting for the main card.
I've got some upsets here in the main card though, so we'll see what happens. But
all right, let's get it. Next one in the lightweight division, we got Damir Ismagulov against Guram Kutala, and tongue twister, the Georgian Viking. Ismagulov is 23-1. He stands 5'10" with a 74-inch reach. The Georgian Viking 12-2. He stands 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. How do you see this one playing out?
Guram hasn't fought in 18 months. He's had less time in the UFC. Ismagulov has fought wants bigger opponents, wants bigger names. And if he does win this fight, I think he does kind of crack into that division a little bit more with a potential lightweight record of 24-1. You don't get to 24-1 at that weight class without being a pretty darn good fighter. So I like Damir Ismagulov in this one, and I like Damir making a name this weekend as well.
I mean, no need for me to break it down anymore. I'm going to agree with you on that one as well.
I maybe need to just start talking less so that I can give you a little more opportunity to talk.
There you go. No, man, you got all the notes over there. You freaking killing it, man.
Oh, I'm glad. Last time I was a little underprepared, so I appreciate it.
Next up in the middleweight division, we got Joaquin Buckley against Albert Durov. Buckley is 14-4, stands 5'10" with a 76-inch reach. Machete is 15-3, stands 5'11" with a 75-inch reach. The Russian, pretty big favorite, -240. The comeback +190 is what I'm seeing here on Tapology, which it's pretty close. Yeah, pretty close on DraftKings, Caesars. You're about -230, 240.
This is a fascinating fight. This is one of the best fights, maybe possibly the fight of the night. We'll see where it goes, but it's going to be pretty darn close. Albert has not lost since 2014. But a lot of people don't know this. Joaquin Buckley has very underrated wrestling. So Joaquin Buckley, you think of him as, the huge knockout win back in 2020 that went completely viral, probably the greatest knockout of all time. He KO'd Jordan Wright, who was a rising star in the UFC, still is. But he's an underrated wrestler, and I think he can handle himself in that department and sprawl and brawl to a win. I really do. He's never been submitted, which is Albert's bread and butter. And I know I said earlier with Julian that if you have a specialist, they might be able to win. But I do think that Joaquin's ability to not get submitted, as well as his ability to sprawl and brawl, might give him the nod with a TKO or a KO victory here. But that is, I'm not sold on that whatsoever, but I will go with the upset if I'm looking at the X's and O's here with Joaquin Buckley and Albert Durov. Or is that I want to make sure.
Durov.
I think that's
Durov. Yeah,
probably something there. But I like Joaquin at plus 170 there.
I actually love everything you said, but on principle, we have our betting rules on the podcast, and I don't bet against the Russian, so I'm going with the Russian. I love the pick, Blake. I think Joaquin Buckley has a great chance of pulling off that upset in there, and at those odds, I could definitely see an upset in this one.
And with that being said, the early on, like when I saw this fight initially, I was like, oh, like Joaquin is toast. But the more I looked into it, the more I got sucked into the world of MMA and the X's and O's, which I love to do. That became it became more clear to me. I was like, I think Joaquin can do this, and with that money line, I'll pick it. So
I don't hate that at all. I'll stick with the Russian, and I love his Tapology pick. He's he's got the shades on. He's posing next to the Mercedes. Yeah, we're gonna go with the Russian on this one.
He's awesome, man. It was great.
Another banger coming up in the welterweight division. We got Tim the Dirty Bird Means against Kevin Holland. Means is 32, 12 and 1. He stands 6'2" with a 75-inch reach. Kevin Holland 22 and 7. He stands 6'3" with an 81-inch reach. How do you see this one playing out?
So yeah, Tim Means the underdog in this one, and I get it. I like Holland at welterweight. I didn't love him at middleweight, especially after that 5-fight win streak he had in 2020. Kind of went on a skid there for a little bit, but he looked good at welterweight just a couple of months ago when he fought against Cowboy Oliveira. So I like Kevin Holland at 170 pounds. Even if Means pulls out his wrestling, he has 5 losses by submission. And Kevin Holland has very underrated jiu-jitsu. And so we'll see what happens. I just think Holland is younger, faster, fresher. I like him as a minus 220. I think it's a good placement there.
I'm going to go Holland in this one, but I think Tim definitely, with his experience, his age, and for as long as he's been around, I think he makes this fight dirty. But I think if Kevin can keep his head on right and stay on his focus, sometimes he gets a little sloppy in there, which I like. I love it. I love to see that in there. But sometimes it gets him in a little bit of trouble. I think Holland ends up pulling out the win in this one too.
Yeah.
Mason thinks Holland runs right through him. All right. Next up we got the co-main event. We had this fight lined up a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Donald Cerrone against Joe Lauzon. Cerrone 36 and 16. He stands 6'1" with a 73-inch reach. Joe Lau is 28 and 15. He stands 5'10" with a 71-inch reach.
Yeah. So Lauzon, the underdog plus 145, Cowboy minus 165. This one's going to be tough to watch, man. It's two legends of the sport, but when the sport is what it is, which is fighting, it's kind of hard to watch after a while. Yes. Joe's first fight in 3 years. He's doing other things. Still, in the gym and stuff like that, but he has his own gym. He's focused a lot on that. I'm not sold on Cowboy winning. I'm not really excited for this fight. I think that in the heat of the moment, I think it was 74 that they were going to fight on. When Cowboy got food poisoning. Yep. Wasn't able to end up fighting after they had already weighed in and everything. I did think to myself, Cowboy's going to get the win. He seemed rejuvenated. But watching the presser this week, I don't know how the same hunger and passion that was there during that initial fight week isn't really there the same. But I still like Cowboy in this one. It's going to be a tough. I'm just not really excited for it. It's exciting in the sense of, two of the most respected pioneers of MMA of all time. But it's also like, who really likes to watch the fights where, win or lose, both of these guys are probably, on their last fights in the UFC octagon. I hope it goes, as smoothly as possible, but we'll see what happens. I'll pick Cowboy.
I agree. I totally agree. This is a tough one. You even heard Donald Cerrone make comments of how the sport has evolved so much, and he doesn't want to fight those young up and comers anymore because they're just walking through them. And like you said, I hope they both hang him up after this. I picked Joe in the initial one. I liked him as an underdog. I don't really have a play on it. I'm not going to put any money on it. I'm just going to go Joe Lauzon by decision in this one. And like you, I don't really care about the fight that much.
Yeah, I care about them. I don't know how much I love the fact that, and again, it was a lot more exciting in the heat of the moment when it was happening for UFC 274. But now it's kind of like, oh, we're still doing this one and it's happening. And I don't know how I feel about it anymore because it's not as exciting as it was just a couple of weeks ago. So, all righty. Well, we'll see what happens. Main event time.
Main event, featherweight division, Calvin Kattar against Josh Emmett. This one's going to be a banger. Kattar coming in at 23-5, stands 5'11" with a 72-inch reach. Josh Emmett, 17-2. He stands 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. Josh, a little bit older, 37 years old. Kattar, 34 years old. How do you see this fight playing out, Blake?
This one's tough. And again, pretty wide money lines. It's interesting with Calvin Kattar because when he was about to fight Max Holloway, those money lines were a lot closer. Max Holloway goes on to put on one of the greatest performances of all time. Then when he goes to fight Giga Chikadze a year later, he is a massive, massive underdog, and everyone thought Giga was the next guy in line at 145. And now, after that performance that Calvin had, which was incredible, he's now going to be fighting Josh Emmett, who is still the underdog in this fight at 185, Kattar the minus 225. But I feel like this money line's closer than it should be. I said it last time we did a fight when we broke down fights together that the puncher's chance is sometimes valid. I think Josh Emmett could do it. I really do. But I think Calvin Kattar is the better fighter. I think he has more tools. When he fought Giga Chikadze, that was 2 takedowns versus Giga. And I think if he utilizes some wrestling in this one, maybe he can, handle Josh Emmett a little bit better that way. But he does take a lot of damage. So we'll see. But I'm going to go with Kattar on this one with the little asterisk of Emmett could absolutely knock him out.
Oh, he has that one-punch knockout power. I'm torn, man. I keep going back and forth. I do think the odds should be a little bit closer than they are. Father time does creep up on you. I know there's only a 3-year difference, but you start creeping up over 35 years old, things start taking a toll on you. I think that last fight Calvin Kattar had with Giga just kind of maybe rejuvenated him after that Max Holloway fight. And for him to turn around and have that performance, like you said, that was phenomenal. So I'm going to lean Kattar on this one, but I think the odds should be a little bit closer. Let me look at something. I want to look at the knockout prop for Emmett to see what that's at. By the way, I'm on bestfightodds.com. If you're curious, they give you all of the fight odds from pretty much everywhere. Emmett by KO TKO is plus 425. I mean, if you're a gambler, man, I don't hate that.
I get it because Calvin didn't get knocked out by Giga or Max. However, Max is a volume puncher. He's not a knockout guy. He took a ton of damage in that fight, 100%. But Josh Emmett throws heat. I mean, he's kind of reminiscent. We talked about him earlier in the podcast. He kind of reminds me of like Jeremy Stevens in his prime, just like these massive, heavy hands. And it's just it's kind of like this equalizer when you get in there with him.
I mean, I'm going to lean Kattar, but I do not hate that prop on there. What do we got by Kattar by decision? How do you see Kattar win? If you see Kattar win, how do you see him win? Decision, or do you think he finishes him?
Really good, well-rounded decision win.
Decision win.
It's 2 or 3 rounds, he gets a nice takedown in here and there. He presses up against the cage, uses his striking, uses his volume striking, because Kattar is a lot like Max. He just throws a little bit less with a little bit more heat. And so I think Kattar can definitely outbox Josh Emmett. But again, Josh Emmett has the equalizer. But it is interesting because how much damage, because Calvin took a lot of damage even in the Giga fight. He just happened to put a lot more damage on Giga. So how much more damage can Calvin take? I mean, I think right now, when I was doing my research, he averages like 6 absorbed strikes per minute in the UFC octagon. That being said, how much has that gone up just in his last 2 performances, where he got hit a lot by Giga, and then Max Holloway, had one of the greatest performances ever. Does that add up? Does that become a thing? Can Josh Emmett knock him out? And I think that's the story going into this main event.
I agree. I think if you like Kattar, like you said, I think you go with him by decision at a plus 130 to 155, depending on where you're betting at. And I really like that Josh Emmett by KO because of all that damage. Eventually that chin's going to wear down. Yeah. Eventually. I mean, maybe it doesn't this fight. Maybe, like you said, he has a beautiful performance, but that puncher's chance.
It's the same thing I think about whenever Justin Gaethje fights. I'm like, how much more damage can this guy's chin take before he starts turning into Chuck Liddell near the end of his career?
Yep.
It's the tough truth of MMA that it does add up over time. And I hope that Calvin, has, a long career ahead of him, but we'll see what happens. So it'll be exciting.
It's going to be a great card, man. Super excited for it. Next weekend, you and I and Mr. Joe Haro get to call the Fierce Fighting Championship 20 fights at the Maverick Center. How pumped up are you about that?
I am so excited. I gotta ask you right now, what is the fight you're looking forward to the most?
The fight that I'm looking forward to, well, do I have to pick just one or can I pick 2? Well, the one is not technically a fight, so I can pick that one. I'm really, really excited to see Samson Famaba and Warren Weingartner. Mm-hmm. They are doing a combat jiu-jitsu match. So for those of you listening that do not understand what a combat jiu-jitsu match, it's jiu-jitsu with open hand strikes. And you're probably a little more familiar with this because you've been around the jiu-jitsu world, but from what I understand, it's as you start to get up to that higher level, there's a lot of stalemate positions, and those strikes kind of open up when they get into those stalemates. So maybe you can enlighten the fans a little bit more on what to expect in that combat jiu-jitsu, since I'm kind of a baby in that arena.
Yeah, so you'll find a lot of stalemates at high-level jiu-jitsu competitions because they know the next 5 moves you could possibly do, and that's what jiu-jitsu is knowing what the opponent's going to do next and being able to counter that, just like anything in combat. Yeah. So with combat jiu-jitsu, there are open palm strikes that you can use to kind of open up your defender, create a little bit more activity and stuff like that, and it's become popularized over the last couple of years. Especially, I know that one of the big names who's been around it has been Eddie Bravo. He kind of brought it more popularized and things like that over on UFC Fight Pass. But overall, I do think that it's a fun way to show how jiu-jitsu works in real life combat to an extent, with still being able to maintain what jiu-jitsu is as a grappling submission or a submission grappling art. And so it's going to be really exciting. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be, fun for people who know and a learning experience for people who don't know. And there's still striking involved. It's still kind of an MMA thing, but a little bit safer. I'm going to say that. And so, yeah, I'm excited for it. It's going to be really, really exciting. So go ahead.
That's one. And man, there's so many good fights on this card. They're literally from top to bottom. This card is stacked. But if I had to, man, I don't want to pick just one. I'm excited to see one of your teammates, Kyle Griffiths, make his debut. Nicole Fuga, who was on the last Fierce card, just freaking brought it. Andrew Mickelson, who we saw, brought it. Okay. This is probably my first one if I'm going up. Malachi Novosel and Jose Mendez is going to be a banger. Both of those guys bring it. Jose Mendez, brawler. I actually had one of his teammates message me and say, you need to watch out for this kid. He's like old school throwback Mexican style, just walk forward and throw bombs. And those of you that have seen Malachi fight, he's basically the same style. He loves to brawl. So God, that's going to be a banger. I'm going to go Zach Hamilton, Raymond Lawley for the AMI featherweight Fierce Fighting Championship belt. That's going to be my
That's going to be
banger.
great. And we actually have Raymond coming on later today. Is that correct?
Yes, we do. Yep, 5:00, right?
Yep, 5:00 with Raymond Lawley. And actually, I was going to tell you about this, but I'll tell you in front of everybody. We got Zack, so we're going to be talking to Zack in the next couple of days here as well. So that one is solidified as well. I'll give you the information later. But very, very exciting stuff. Something really, really cool about Jose Mendez. That guy is 3-1 right now, but his one loss was to a 4-0 opponent, and it was a split decision. This guy's pretty darn close to as undefeated as they get. And he's really, really good. And on top of that, his opponent in Malachi Novosel, I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure I got that right. Malachi Novosel, him too. Both these guys are studs, and both of them just started fighting like 2 years ago, but they both combined with 15 fights. Yeah, 20 and
both
21,
kids.
I believe. It's insane.
20 and 22. Yeah, 20 and 22.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Insane.
So who, if you had to pick, what's your fight of the night on this card?
Oh man. All right. Let me go through really quick. It definitely could be Novosel versus Mendez. I
mean, our main event is a pro lightweight championship with Fabio Serral and Sugoku Armasane. It's a pretty high level fight.
That's going to be really, really good too.
I can't pick.
It's tough to say. I think the most fascinating matchup we have is Raymond Lawley versus Zack Hamilton. That one's going to be interesting. Raymond Lawley's a really good wrestler. I've had the pleasure of calling his fights in the past. He's a really, really good wrestler. He trains over at Extreme. Zack is, kind of the hometown guy. He's going to be fighting here in Utah. Raymond's taken all of his fights in Idaho. Zack has taken all of his fights in Utah. Both of them are the number 4 fighters in their respective states that they fought, Idaho and Utah. It's really just as good as they get. Now, the thing is, on top of that, the Jose fight, the Novosel versus Mendez fight, that's probably the winner of that fight probably gets the next shot at the strap of the winner of Zack Hamilton and Raymond Lawley. So that is going to be quite a good one. So I'm gonna say Raymond Lawley, Zack Hamilton. I'm gonna stick with the same picks as you. And we got to find a way to stop agreeing with each other on everything.
I know. we have something else really cool about this on this card that I wanted to touch on. Proving Ground Invitational is going to be holding an all-female jiu-jitsu tournament. This is going to be before the fight. So if you want to come in and watch a phenomenal, we have one of the top jiu-jitsu female players in the world in Amy Campo competing in a super fight on this card. I mean, for those of you that follow jiu-jitsu knows who Amy is. I think she's 22 years old, if I'm not mistaken. Brazilian jiu-jitsu, just got her black belt. She just competed at IBJFF World and finished second in her first gi competition. Like, won the West Coast ADC trial. I mean, this is phenomenal to be able to have that big of a fight here locally. What's your take on having this all-female tournament going on before the fights?
I love it. I can't wait. I mean, there's so much, there's so many different things that are going to be happening, from combat jiu-jitsu to MMA to regular jiu-jitsu competition throughout the entire night. Now, specifically with the jiu-jitsu early on, the proving grounds going on, it's going to be interesting because they're not going to be on mats. They're going to be in a cage, position, wrestling. Where are they going to be able to stand up? Where are they going to be able to use the cage to help them or be, an issue for them? It's going to be really, really fun to watch. I cannot wait for that part of the card as well. Lots of big names, lots of up and comers. And again, Utah just keeps getting bigger. Every time we talk to a fighter, they say Utah is just getting better and better at this stuff. And so I cannot wait to showcase, or for Fierce, I should say, to showcase all of this amazing talent from jiu-jitsu to combat all the way up to MMA. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait.
It's going to be amazing, man. And speaking of Utah's blowing up, we have a UFC card coming here August 20th and a big one.
20th. Cannot wait. Kamaru versus Leon.
Do you think Usman everybody thinks Usman's just going to walk over him. I kind of don't think he's going to walk all over him.
I do think Usman is better in specific departments, and I think Leon is better in specific departments. The only thing is we do have a common denominator here in a first fight 7 years ago. And we do see what that matchup looks like. Granted, they've both gotten better. Their styles have changed, but it's when you feel someone once and you're kind of widely known as still better, I do understand why people think that Usman does take the win in that. I mean, dude, he's beaten Colby twice. He's beaten Gilbert Burns. He's beaten George Masvidal twice. Leon Edwards is a great fighter. He's won I'm trying to remember now. Is it 9, 10 fights in a row?
I want to say 9. I'm right off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't have it right off the top of my head, but yeah, something like that. You were close.
But needless to say, the guy can scrap, and the guy can definitely win this fight. He's a winner. He's a competitor. So we'll see what happens. But I do understand the favoritism towards Kamaru.
Okay.
Early on, but this is crazy. This is going to be like the biggest thing that happens in Salt Lake this summer. This is huge.
It's awesome.
It's going to be great.
I have a friend that has a early ticket pre-sale code, so I'll be picking up my tickets on Wednesday instead of Friday.
Oh,
and we're still going to try to slide in some press passes there too. So hopefully, cross your fingers, we can get a press pass and maybe be able to go interview a couple guys.
We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I can't wait. I cannot wait for this card. It's going to be huge. And Dana White and Ryan Smith are like officially going to announce it at Vivint on Tuesday afternoon. So there'll be some headlines about that coming up in the next couple of days. A little bit of the journalist broadcaster over here.
Nice.
That's a little in on the what's going on. No,
that is awesome, man.
I've interviewed for high school sports. I love what I do.
It's awesome. And you do a phenomenal job. We're glad to have you come on here and be able to help us out breaking down these fights and doing fighter interviews. It's been awesome.
I appreciate it. I love it. I seriously, I can't thank you enough for the opportunity. So,
well, you'll be jumping back on again next week because we got some more fighter spotlights to do. We actually have Amy Campos' opponent coming on next Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. I got to check my notes, but so we'll be able to talk a little jiu-jitsu of one of the females that'll be competing on there.
That'll be great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And again, we got one later today, just a couple of hours.
Yep. Stay tuned at 5:00 Mountain Standard Time. Thanks you everybody for tuning in. Blake, thanks again. We will see you guys at 5:00.
Thank you, brother.
We are out.